On November 18th, 2009, one of the most disturbing pieces of Hispanic television would resurface online. A YouTube video titled Paranormal: The Cursed Snow White Amusement Park Veracruz claims to contain a lost segment from Extra Normal, one of the most famous paranormal shows in Mexico. But this episode was unlike anything the show had ever aired.
A la base de operaciones de Extra Normal llegaron estas impresionantes imágenes captadas en un parque de diversiones en el puerto de Veracruz. En este video, cuyo autor prefirió mantenerse en el anonimato, se puede apreciar el momento exacto en el que esta figura pareciera cerrar sus ojos, como si cobrara vida frente a la cámara.
The footage begins with a man filming inside Magic Kingdom, a small Disney-inspired amusement park in Boca del Rio, Veracruz. He walks among the statues scattered throughout the park: Snow White, the dwarves, and several fairy tale characters. Everything seems normal, until the camera turns towards the statue of the princess. Just for a split second, barely long enough to process, the statue blinks. Its eyelids lower and rise again, as if it's looking straight into the lens. The man's reaction is instant. He panics, stumbles back, and sprints out of frame. And right there, that moment was what many viewers still call one of the most terrifying clips to ever broadcast on Hispanic TV. For anyone who didn't grow up in a Hispanic household, Extra Normal was essentially the Latin American version of Ghost Adventures, long before ghost hunting was trendy. It premiered in the early 2000s and quickly became a staple of late-night Mexican TV. Every Sunday, families tuned in to watch investigators, psychics, and reporters explore abandoned hospitals, haunted homes, legends of witches, demons, and ghosts, supernatural folklore from all across Mexico. To this day, clips from the show circulate all over YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. For a generation of kids, it was their first exposure to horror, and many never forget it. However, not everyone believes the blinking statue was real. Even fans of the show admit Extra Normal was known for staging moments. The blinking effect could be a simple edit, viewer-submitted footage was barely verified, and the show relied heavily on dramatic storytelling to keep ratings high. It's also possible the man who recorded the clip edited it himself before sending it in, and the episode's original broadcast seems to be lost. Only low-quality, unofficial uploads still exist today, with no official archive confirming its authenticity. But there's other possibilities. Magic Kingdom has multiple videos online showing statues moving, shifting positions, or following passerby with their eyes. Whether these were glitches, illusions, or something paranormal, no one knows. Real or fake, the footage remains one of the most iconic mysteries in Hispanic TV history. 17 years later, the mystery still remains. On April 9th, 2008, a strange clip resurfaced on YouTube under the title Ghost in Mexico, La Bruja de Monterrey. But this wasn't just another blurry paranormal video. This was a segment from Premier Impacto, one of the most infamous and sensational news programs in Spanish-language television. For years, Premier Impacto was known across Mexico, Central America, and the US Latino community for its dramatic reports, real crimes, tragedies, supernatural events, and the bizarre. Every evening, living rooms fell silent as the show presented what felt like a highlight reel of Latin America's darkest stories. And in 2004, the show aired one of its most disturbing ones.
Los habitantes de una ciudad están atemorizados ante lo que parece ser el ataque de unos extraños seres que muchos aseguran son parecidos a brujas. Desde México, Alejandro Mendoza tiene los impactantes testimonios.
Este objeto que flota sobre un cerro fue captado por un grupo de videoaficionados. La difusión de estas imágenes causaron gran conmoción.
Fue realmente una suerte que nos tocara en ese momento estar presentes y que hubiera dos cámaras en ese momento también.
O sea, ahí por ejemplo, ¿por qué no siguió derecho?
Tras revisar una y otra vez el video, Jerónimo junto a los integrantes del OVNI Club Nuevo León comenzaron a notar que aquella mancha flotante lucía como una persona encorvada que vestía una túnica con capucha puntiaguda. Incluso hubo quien aseguró que parecía volar sobre una escoba. Así llegaron a una primera conclusión: tal vez aquello era una bruja.
The segment opens with shaky footage recorded on a hillside in Monterrey. A strange, dark shape floats across the mountains, an object hovering slightly, drifting against the wind. To the untrained eye, it looks nothing more than a smudge in the sky, but then the camera zooms in. The smudge suddenly resembles the outline of a person, a figure hunched over, wearing a long cloak and what looks eerily like a pointed hood. Locals immediately recognized what they believed it to be: La Bruja, a witch. The clip sent shockwaves through Monterrey. Soon, a well-known well-known group of UFO enthusiasts analyzed the footage frame by frame. They claimed the figure looked like it was riding something, possibly even a broom. To them, this wasn't a drone or a balloon, it was something alive. But the story didn't end there. During the segment, a police officer steps forward with a trembling voice. He explains that while guarding a lot near the local cemetery, he saw two flying beings pass overhead. Both were dressed in black, covered in feathers, and had long claws. 2 years earlier, another officer, Leonardo, had made a nearly identical claim. He was found unconscious and shaking, telling paramedics that a witch had attacked him midair. Even more unsettling, the description he gave matched the hovering figure seen on camera. Eyes large, cloaked, no broom, just drifting and watching. Medical tests were later performed on both officers. No drugs, no hallucinations, no clear explanation. Monterrey has long been tied to stories of brujas, witches that stalk mountaintops, cemeteries, and rural highways. In Mexican folklore, brujas can take many forms. Human-like silhouettes, birds or beasts, floating black masses, women with long cloaks and glowing eyes. Sightings in northern Mexico go back decades, and many locals still consider certain mountains witch territory. To them, the footage wasn't surprising, it was confirmation. However, skeptics proposed another theory. The object's stiff movement and odd shape suggested it could have been a misidentified drone, balloon, or paraglider, or even just an edited clip. Premier Impacto often amplified paranormal stories for dramatic effect, and many believe the segment was exaggerated, if not entirely staged for viewership. Yet, despite the skepticism, the footage remains one of the most iconic moments in Hispanic television. Segments like this is why Premier Impacto became so infamous. For decades, the show delivered some of the most disturbing stories on Hispanic TV. It terrified children, fascinated adults, and kept families glued to the screen. In many Hispanic households, especially in the 90s to early 2000s, Premier Impacto was unavoidable. Its visuals were intense, its stories dramatic, and its tone unapologetically dark. To this day, countless viewers still remember hiding behind furniture while their parents watched. Whether these segments were exaggerations, misunderstood events, or full production designed for ratings, they remain some of the most chilling pieces of broadcast television in Latin American history. Even now, almost 2 decades later, the truth remains unknown. On April 25, 2014, a video titled "A Ghost in the Tigre Match" began circulating across YouTube. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a normal soccer match between the strongest and Defensor Sporting. But then, people noticed something very strange.
Es correcto, ningún amonestado.
Sacará el arquero, le pega fuerte a la pelota. Vaca, se termina el encuentro de ida, octavos de final, Copa Bristol Libertadores. Domina Solís.
As the commentators analyzed the match, a dark figure darted across the stadium stands, moving impossibly fast. The shape slipped through the rows of seated fans, passed behind them, then vanished deeper into the crowd, all without slowing down. To viewers who saw the clip live, especially on low-quality streams, it didn't look human. It looked like a shadow, a silhouette. Something that shouldn't exist. The broadcast announcer even addresses it on air, a ghost watching the match. Within hours, the clip spread across social media, WhatsApp, and Latin American news websites. People shared it with captions like "Demon captured on video" and "Bruja in the stadium." For some, it was proof of the supernatural. For others, it was a terrifying mystery waiting to be solved. In the original broadcast, the figure appears as a thin black blur. It seems to phase through metal railings and through groups of fans, passing directly behind them but remaining perfectly visible, like a shadow sliding across the stadium. Its speed was unsettling, its movement was unnatural, and that's why thousands of viewers believed they were witnessing a demon, a ghost, or maybe even a witch. In a region where folklore runs deep, and where stories of shadows in the mountains or spirits, the footage hit a nerve. People weren't just watching a soccer match, they were watching something unexplainable, or at least something that seems unexplainable. A few days later, Bolivian television decided to dig into the clip. A sports program called Super Sports 365 compared different broadcasts of the same match, including a high-resolution recording, and instantly the mystery fell apart. In the HD footage, the ghost was clearly a man running down a staircase in the stands. He was simply moving one layer lower than the seated fans, creating the illusion that he was passing through their bodies. Because the Fox Sports broadcast was low resolution, the dark figure blended with the shadows behind him. The frame rate, distance, and compression made his movement look jarring, almost supernatural. When shown side by side, the comparison is obvious. The ghost never existed. It was just a fan sprinting to another section of the stadium. Even after being debunked, the video remains deeply unsettling, because in those few seconds in that grainy footage, the figure looks completely unnatural. If you were watching the match live on a poor quality stream and saw a shadow gliding through the stadium at impossible speeds, your minds would fill in the rest. And in much of Latin America, it filled it with demons, witches, or spirits, especially given the cultural weight of these stories. It didn't matter that the mystery was solved, the first impression was powerful enough to stick. Even after the truth is explained, the fear captured in the original broadcast stays with you. And that fleeting shadow in the stands, real or not, remains one of the most unsettling moments in live Hispanic television. On April 1st, 2020, right at 3 a.m., one of Mexico's most popular TV channels, Canal 5, suddenly posted something that no one could explain. A network known for kids programming, cartoons, and family-friendly shows uploaded a series of disturbing, nightmare-like videos to their official Twitter accounts. Just pure uncanny strangeness in the middle of the night.
Time for a munch, crunch, crunch, munch, munch, crunch, crunch.
The first clip that went viral was the now infamous Red Man video. A distorted humanoid figure, tinted blood red, leans towards the camera and repeats in a glitchy voice, "Time for lunch, munch munch, crunch crunch, munchy munchy, crunchy crunchy." It looks like something pulled straight out of a lost Adult Swim segment. Warped, uncanny, and absolutely not something you'd expect from a children's TV network. And then more posts came. More clips, more unsettling fragments, all appearing between 2 and 3 a.m. and all deleted by sunrise. People who happened to be awake captured what they could before the posts were wiped.
You like them? Is it good? Yeah.
To understand why this freaked out so many people, you have to know what Canal 5 is. It's been around since the 1950s, a household name for kids across Mexico and Latin America. Afternoons filled with cartoons, morning shows, sitcoms, Nickelodeon reruns. Canal 5 is the kind of channel parents let their kids watch alone because it's safe. So the idea of this network at 3 a.m. posting content that looks like it came from the dark corners of the early internets, that's what made it feel so unsettling. People didn't know if Canal 5 was hacked, if someone inside the company went rogue, or if something much stranger was going on. During the pandemic, everyone was glued to their phones, so when these posts started circulating, the panic spreaded instantly across the Hispanic internets. The clips posted by Canal 5 were not random. They were distorted faces, uncanny animations, old internet weirdcore videos. Every post followed the same ritual. Uploaded between 2 and 3 a.m., no caption or explanation, deleted before morning, and no official statement afterward. It was like someone was intentionally posting when no one was watching, hoping the videos would disappear before anyone noticed. After digging into it myself, the situation becomes much clearer. The videos weren't original Canal 5 creations. They were old internet clips re-uploaded onto the channel's Twitter. The timing and quick deletions suggest someone inside the company was posting without authorization. There's no evidence of a hack, and during lockdown, any strange activity spread twice as fast. My personal conclusion: this was most likely a weird prank or a failed attempt at viral marketing by someone working at Canal 5's local social media team. A stunt that went too far. And because the posts happened during the pandemic when everyone was online, bored, and anxious, the reaction was explosive. People genuinely panicked, kids saw it, parents complained, and Canal 5 stayed silent. To this day, they've never officially explained it, and that silence is what kept the mystery alive. Even though we now know the videos were just old, creepy clips from the internet, the way Canal 5 handled the situation is what made it obscure. What should have been a small prank turned into one of the most unsettling internet mysteries in Latin America. Before Canal 5's strange 3 a.m. clips in the 2020s, its darkest and most unsettling mystery actually began 2 decades earlier. In 2001, Mexico's Canal 5 aired a short community service segment called Community Service, a broadcast meant to show the names and photos of missing people. It wasn't unusual, it aired often, but one particular image would become one of the most infamous pieces of analog horror in Mexican TV history. This is the broadcast of Selena Delgado Lopez.
XHGC Canal 5, al servicio de la comunidad. Pedimos ayuda para localizar a Víctor Gama Tavera, de 20 años de edad. Se ignora su paradero desde el 28 de mayo del año 2000. Esteban Mendoza Juárez, de 24 años, se ignora su paradero desde el 29 de abril. Va en compañía del menor Víctor Daniel Mendoza Rodríguez. Cristian Vélez Zamudio, informe a los teléfonos de Canal 5. Selene Delgado López, de 18 años, se extravió el 22 de abril en la delegación Álvaro Obregón. Pamela Martínez Moreno, de 14 años, desapareció el 15 de mayo.
The broadcast looks simple, a still photograph, a name, and the word missing. But people who saw it at the time say the moment felt wrong. Selena's face is strangely generic, almost too generic. Her expression doesn't change, her eyes don't move. Yet something about the photo feels disturbingly lifelike and inhuman at the same time. Combine that with Canal 5's fuzzy analog quality in the early 2000s, and suddenly you get a moment burned into the childhood of anyone who saw it live. Back then, Canal 5 aired shows aimed at children, cartoons, sitcoms, anime, and the community service announcements would interrupt programming without warning. So imagine being a kid watching your show and suddenly a still, uncanny face fills the screen. Silent, motionless, human but not quite. That's what created the legend. Canal 5 often showed missing persons announcements as a form of community assistance. Most entries included the person's age, the date they vanished, the location, a short description, and sometimes details about clothing or last sightings. But Selena's card stood out for one reason. She had almost no information. No details, no background, just her name, age, 18, and the area of her disappearance. Alvaro Obregón, Mexico City. This lack of detail made her stand out like a glitch in the system. People described feeling uneasy the moment her picture appeared, and that feeling is what fueled the rumors that followed. Over the years, stories began spreading online that the TV would freeze whenever her photo appeared, that Canal 5 would glitch or distort during her segments, that the spirit of Selena haunted the broadcasts, and later, more extreme ideas, like claims her face looked digitally generated long before AI became common. Some people even believed that Selena wasn't real, that she was a fabricated girl inserted into the missing persons lineup for unknown reasons. Others said the lack of information was proof that no real police report ever existed. And then came the more disturbing rumors, that every copy of the broadcast online looked slightly different, that Canal 5 kept re-airing her photo for years without updating her status, and that the channel never explained who submitted her case in the first place. All of these statements, the uncanny photo, the missing details, the timing, the random interruptions, created the foundation of the modern Canal 5 mystery. Eventually, people online began investigating, and buried deep in old Spanish language internet corners, some real information surfaced. One obscure blog post page compiled pieces that almost no one had seen before. Her sister was named Laura Delgado. She disappeared in Delegacion. A phone number connected to her case once belonged to a local corner store. The store owner received a mysterious phone call about her but never revealed details. Selena came from a low-income household. A better quality version of her photo was printed in old physical media, now nearly impossible to find. A secret research blog from 2006 had over 20 entries investigating her case, all unindexed, locked behind limited access. The 2006 blog allegedly included unverified claims. Selena disappeared in the morning. She may have had a stalker living nearby. Her father died when she was young. Her mother did laundry for others to survive. And the most surprising claim, Selena may have left voluntarily. Whether any of these are true is unknown. The sources are fragmented, old, and often impossible to verify, but they were enough to cause speculation for years. Some people online compared Selena's face to a composite police sketch, even noting similarities to unrelated criminal composites from the late 90s. Others argued that the photo looks too symmetrical, too smooth, too expressionless, almost like an early attempt at AI. But the truth is simpler. In the early 2000s, poor families often had only one low-quality photo of their missing loved one. Cheap cameras, low resolution, and Canal 5's signal quality made the image look uncanny. It wasn't AI, it was poverty and analog distortion. But the effects, the fear created, still real. After After researching the broadcast, the blog posts, the rumors, the missing archives, and the analog history of Canal 5, here's the explanation that makes the most sense. Selena Delgado was very likely a real missing girl. Her lack of details matches the reality of early 2000s Mexico, where thousands of disappearances went unreported or poorly documented. The unsettling photo wasn't intentional. Low-quality cameras, poor lighting, and the VHS distortion created that uncanny effect. The glitching stories are probably a mix of childhood memories and analog TV issues. Anyone who watched old cable knows how easily channels froze or distorted. The reason her case became an urban legend is because she stood out. One generic face, one frozen expression, one missing teen whose story never had closure. When something unexplained appears in a place meant to be safe, especially during childhood, it leaves a mark. But the deepest part of the mystery remains unsolved. No one knows what truly happened to Selena Delgado. No official police records survive, no family statements, just one still image, and a broadcast that frightened an entire generation. The emptiness, the lack of answers is what kept this legend alive for over 20 years, solidifying itself as one of the most disturbing horrors from Hispanic TV. By the early to mid-2010s, Alarma TV had one of the most infamous shows on Hispanic television, a late-night broadcast that millions watched and millions more accidentally stumbled onto. It was supposed to be a crime reporting news show, but what viewers got was something entirely different.
Alarma TV.
Hola, hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo les va? Feliz noche. Muchísimas gracias por sintonizar Alarma TV.
Así es, bienvenidos. Historias el día de hoy muy interesantes, ¿no es así?
Sí, señor, muy interesantes, pero también polémicas, porque hay una historia que a mí me tiene muy, pero muy enojada el día de hoy. Es que unas madres salvajes haciendo yoga con sus bebés de una manera, pero terrible, hombre.
También un hombre muy fuerte y valiente con un pitón enorme.
Uy, eso sí.
Pónganse cómodos. Iniciemos.
Vamos a comenzar el día de hoy con uno de los actos más salvajes jamás registrados en una cárcel.
The clip you just watched, Alarma TV, abruptly cuts to a man in another person's ear, completely unblurred and no warning, and immediately continues on to the next news story, as if nothing unusual had happened. That was Alarma TV's reputation, shocking, abrupt, and deeply unsettling. What made it worse was its airtime. Alarma TV didn't always run at midnight. Sometimes it aired in the afternoon, sometimes right after children's programming. Anyone, including kids, could accidentally switch the channel and see things no one should ever have to watch. And this wasn't exaggeration or rumor. People who grew up with the show still talk about it today. A user from Reddit said, "When I was younger, like 12 or 13, I was up late one night messing around on my phone. I paused to look at the TV and saw SBT showing a Mexican program where there was straight up a kid decapitated by a satanic cult in some province in Mexico, and right after that, a video of people killed by a cartel. It was a program kind of like a news show, and it was super weird to see the presenter being all professional while there were literally dead people uncensored on the screen. That's the kind of impact Alarma TV left on viewers. Not suspense, not storytelling, just raw horror, broadcast casually, sometimes while families were eating dinner. Alarma TV originated from the notorious Mexican tabloid Alarma, known for printing graphic crime scenes since the 1960s. The TV version followed the same formula: real crime scene footage, accidents and aftermaths, disturbing reports from across Latin America, presented with a calm, almost emotionless tone. And despite the backlash, the show became extremely popular. It was talked about on buses, in markets, at school. Everyone knew someone who had seen that one episode, but controversy followed it everywhere. Parents protested its air schedule, media critics accused it of exploiting violence, officials questioned how this could legally air. Still, Alarma TV stayed on air for years. You can still find full episodes online, but you shouldn't. Even with content warnings, even knowing what's coming, the footage remains deeply disturbing. Alarma TV didn't rely on the paranormal or analog horror editing. The horror came from reality itself, shown with the same tone as daily weather reports. And that, more than anything, made it unforgettable. Alarma TV remains one of the most disturbing programs to ever air on Hispanic television. On August 4th, 2009, a young woman named Gabriela Rico Jimenez appeared on Mexican television. She was standing outside the Fiesta Inn in Monterrey, rambling, frantic, and terrified. Her shirt was ripped, her voice was shaking as she shouted names of powerful politicians, businessmen, and accusations no one expected to hear on live TV. In the clip, Gabriela talks about being imprisoned by wealthy people, high-level murders, and claims of cannibalism among the elites. During her outburst, police approached, restrained her, and escorted her away. That broadcast would become the last time anyone saw her publicly, and that's how the mystery began. Shortly after the clip aired, blogs began to circulate a shocking claim. Gabriela Rico wasn't just a random woman, she was a famous Mexican model. Runway shows in Paris and New York, magazine covers, high-profile events. But here's where things start to feel strange. If you search her name online, there's nothing. No portfolio, no modeling credits, no runway photos, not a single archived magazine cover. It was as if her entire career had been wiped clean off the internet. If she was truly a model, why erase every trace? Why did the news not mention her status at all? Why did no fashion agency ever acknowledge knowing her? During her broadcast, Gabriela drops names. Big names, most notably Carlos Slim, who at the time was the richest man in the world. She accuses multiple people of murder. She claims she had been taken to a police station and mocked. People were being killed, elites were eating human flesh, and that she had escaped some kind of hidden operation. Then she was taken away by police, and the clip abruptly ends. Reddit threads, Spanish forums, conspiracy blogs, everyone wanted answers, and the theories only got darker. One Reddit user wrote, "I had this coworker, Dominican woman, who was obsessed with Los Satanicos, a cannibal cult that she claims operated in broad daylight in most Mexican small towns. According to her, they were some kind of voodoo church who made human sacrifices and trafficked people. She would talk about them all the time in casual conversation, like at least once per shift." Stories like these, exaggerated or not, gave Gabriela's cannibalism claims a horrifying cultural context, because cannibal lore in Mexico runs deep. Historically, certain pre-Hispanic groups, like some Aztec warrior groups, practiced symbolic ritual cannibalism, usually in highly specific ceremonial circumstances. This wasn't cult activity, but religious ritual, and it ended centuries ago. In modern times, however, tales of brujos, nahuales, and satanic cults became popular in rural legends. Stories of secret groups eating flesh or stealing children were told as cautionary tales, not documented reality. These legends still circulate today, especially in small towns, giving Gabriela's claims a disturbing mythology-like truth, even if the truth is far less fantastical, because not everyone believed her story. One Reddit user bluntly said, "Reading about this lady makes me think it was genuinely just a lady having a psychotic episode. There's literally nothing about her on the internet other than this incident, which does not suggest she was a supermodel. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't put it past them, but this seems like actual schizo stuff." And honestly, when you look at the evidence, this explanation becomes harder to dismiss. When I analyzed the original transcript and broke down the timeline, a much clearer picture appeared. No credible source ever proved she was a model. No fashion agency ever acknowledged her. No runway archives list her name. The original broadcast introduced her simply as a young woman, not a public figure, and the erased model career rumor seems to have been started with one sensationalized blog, then spread unchecked. But the biggest discovery came years later. In 2017, a Mexican news outlet reported finding a 29-year-old woman named Gabriela Rico Jimenez wandering the streets at dawn, confused and unable to remember where she lived. She was taken to social services. The name matches, the age matches, the mental state matches. Even a professional face comparison tool found a very high probability that she was the same woman from 2009. If that's true, then Gabriela didn't disappear, she didn't get silenced, she wasn't part of some cult expose. She was simply a woman suffering a severe mental health episode, whose breakdown happened to be televised. Here's the truth based on everything we know. Gabriela likely was not a model, her accusations were almost certainly delusions, her disappearance wasn't a cover-up, she simply lived outside the public eye, and the 2017 report strongly suggests she survived. But here's the unsettling part. Even with all the evidence, the broadcast is still deeply disturbing. Her fear looked real, her panic felt real, and her insistence that powerful people were watching her had a chilling intensity that sticks with you. And the truth, we will never know everything that happened to Gabriela Rico Jimenez. In 2006, during the broadcast of the Play of the World Cup, a massive World Cup special shown across Mexico, something aired that many viewers still describe as one of the most disturbing live moments ever captured on Hispanic television. The Play of the World Cup was Televisa's flagship World Cup analysis show. It featured comedians, sportscasters, athletes, and celebrity guests. It was upbeat, fun, and watched by millions of families every week. Eugenio Derbez, already one of the most beloved comedic actors in Mexico, was was a recurring guest. By this time, he had already starred in iconic shows. He was known as a jokester, someone who could take any awkward moment and turn it into comedy. So when producers brought on Tony Camo, a Spanish hypnotist and mentalist, everyone expected something funny, silly, and harmless. Nobody expected what actually happens.
Tratándose de alguien con tantas expresiones, con tantas personalidades. Adelante, Tony. Es todo tuyo.
Una cucharada de su propia sopa.
Sí, ya le tocaba una.
No, pero lo que coinciden todos es que todos me dicen, por favor, trátame bien, trátame bien.
Sí, es que da nervio.
No. Bueno, la pregunta importante. No se puede hipnotizar a alguien en contra de su voluntad, en contra de sus principios. Yo dejo bien claro que ya antes tuve la oportunidad de hipnotizar a Eugenio en un show. Y aquí, antes de comenzar, pues he estado con él un tiempo para que el proceso sea mucho más fácil y más rápido. Pero mi pregunta siempre queda ahí. ¿Estás dispuesto? No puedo hipnotizarte si no te dejas. ¿Estás dispuesto a todo?
Sí.
¿Sí?
Sí.
Pero nervioso, ¿verdad?
Muy.
Sí. Muy. Bueno, ahí vamos, ¿de acuerdo?
Si quieres los dejamos solos.
No. Ahí vamos.
Para que estén más tranquilos.
No, participe,
ver,
es mucho más bonito.
Bien.
¿De acuerdo? Duerme. Ahora 3. Duerme, tienes sueño. Duerme profundamente, muy profundamente,
Se va a pegar aquí.
muy profundamente. Ahora sigue dormido, porque cuando yo cuente 3, Eugenio, tú vas a despertar. Y cuando despiertes, tú no vas a tener la edad que tiene. Tú vas a tener, por ejemplo, 15 años. Por lo tanto, aún no has comenzado a hacer tu vida artística. Es más, cuando despierte, tú vas a tener miedo a salir en televisión. Tienes miedo escénico, no te vas a atrever, te da vergüenza, te da timidez, no eres capaz. Voy a contar 3 y vas a despertar. Usted, venga para acá. Venga usted para acá. Usted, venga. ¿Usted cómo se llama?
Eugenio.
Venga para acá.
No,
Sí,
yo no.
ayúdeme.
Ayúdenos.
Venga,
No.
Usted, trátame para acá. Venga para acá. Usted, póngase aquí. Póngase aquí. La cámara va a estar ahí. ¿De acuerdo? Perdón que me pase por delante. Nosotros nos ponemos aquí. Usted comienza. Un chiste, el que usted quiera. ¿De acuerdo? ¿Está usted o no?
No, yo prefiero no hacerlo.
No, usted quédese aquí.
No, yo
Tiene que hacerlo, por favor. Venga para acá.
Venga.
No, ayúdenos.
Es que me va a salir muy mal,
No se preocupe. Grabamos ya, señor, el conteo, por favor.
Vamos, 3, 2, 1. Le dice, hay luz ahí arriba y
¿Qué le dijo?
Le dice, hay luz allá.
Nervioso. ¿Qué le dice? Que estamos en directo. Ándale.
¿Qué pasó?
¿Qué estamos?
¿Cómo va? Al final del chiste, Eugenio. ¿Se te olvidó?
Está llorando, mira todas las lágrimas ahí.
Tony Camo hypnotized Eugenio Derbez, telling him to behave as if he were 8 years old, explaining that Derbez had been very shy as a child. When Derbez tried to tell a simple joke under hypnosis, he completely broke down. He lowered his head, covered his face like a terrified child, and then, in full view of the cameras, he wet himself. Hosts and colleagues rushed to comfort him as if he were a small child. His breathing was erratic, his hands trembled. He seemed unable to look at anyone or speak. Even when soccer legend Hugo Sanchez appeared as a surprise guest, Derbez, still in trance, looked completely overwhelmed. Then the show cut to commercial, and nobody knew what to make of it. I've watched the clip over and over, and from what I saw, this didn't look like a staged act. His body language screams real panic. The people around him weren't laughing. They were tense, confused, uncomfortable. And Derbez himself never joked about this afterward. At the same time, he is an actor, a brilliant one. So, could it have been a performance? Maybe. But if it was one of the most convincing, disturbing performances I've ever seen. Hypnosis, especially in stage settings, can sometimes trigger emotional regression or panic attacks. I think it's entirely possible that Tony Camo pushed him into a state that Derbez couldn't control, emotionally or physically. But there's always the question, was it real or was it cleverly staged for TV? Even knowing hypnosis can have real effects, the sight of someone so famous and beloved losing control like like that, it's unsettling. Was Eugenio Derbez genuinely hypnotized, stripped of control, and traumatized on live TV? Or was it a perfectly performed act designed to shock millions and boost ratings? We may never know. All I know is that Real or Fake is by far one of the most disturbing and uncomfortable moments ever broadcast on Hispanic television. After talking to people in my family, I'm certain that these were the richest horrors to leave Hispanic TV. If I missed any, let me know in the comments.